Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday Night Live. So I thought there's no need to kind of hang about, and normally I leave the music running for a little bit, let people get into the chat. But it looks like we've got a few people in actually waiting for me to start tonight. So the chat's picking up already there. So we've got Mark in, who was in nice and early. Good evening, Mark. How you doing, mate? I didn't get my test message up tonight for you to try and beat. We've got Neil Anderson in as well. Good evening, Neil. How are you? Hope you're well. Your garage is looking rather swish there, mate. Now that table's looking good. We've got John Whitesnake in as well, all the way from the US. Good evening, John. Hope you're well. Thanks for joining us. We've also got Robert as well. He's coming from the US as well. Good evening, Robert. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got Mr. Spooky Thing, Tony. Good evening, mate. How are you doing? How's things for you? We've got Rage Against the Dice as well. Good evening, Kev. Hope you're well, buddy. We've also got Basic Miniature Painting in as well. Evening, mate. How are you? Steve from Steve's Small World. Evening as well. We've got Gary Hollandale. Says, evening, everyone. Andy, hope you and the family are all well. We're very well, thanks. Thanks for asking, Gary. My little boy, he's not quite 2 yet, and he's at nursery during the day while me and my wife work, and he normally has a little bit of a snooze on an afternoon, but today he didn't. So I was expecting to have a little bit of carnage tonight, but he's gone to bed quite nicely. Hopefully everything will be fine. So thank you for asking. We've got Adam in as well. Good evening, Adam Rogers. We've got Division 1 Champs. Evening, buddy. How are you? We've got DM13 says, oi, oi, Savaloy. Haven't heard that in ages. We've got Ian Webb. Good evening, Ian. Hope you're well, buddy. Mark says, 2 hours I was waiting for that test message. Sorry, mate. I must have, I kind of got it set up earlier on, and I normally do my test message to make sure that all of this works at the side. But when I got here, Mark already had a message, so I didn't have to do it. We've got Big Beard Painting as well. Good evening, buddy. Hope you're well. Neil says, I've got Alicia and Arnie as well tonight. Good evening to Alicia and Arnie. Are those your kids, Neil? Are they nieces, nephews? No idea who they are, mate, so let me know who they are. But good evening to you two, and thank you for joining us. We got Christian's come in as well. Good evening, Christian. Flip Movie Maker says hello. Good evening, Flip. We've got Mike in as well. Evening, buddy. Hope everything's all right on the baby to be front there. Hope you're not going to rush out halfway through the live stream tonight. I assume you're probably building a bit more terrain tonight. John says, I'm still sad about yesterday. But hey, that's football. Some you win, some you lose, buddy. Yeah, that's how it works. Tony says to DM13, he's trying to teach his parrot to say "oi oi Savaloon." Not going well at the moment. We'll have to just keep put this live stream on repeat, and we'll just keep throwing in an "oi oi Savaloy" every now and again just to keep it going. So we've got a right old crew in nice and early this evening. Plenty of people ready for it to start. Mike, for those that don't know, because Mike's someone that lives quite close by to me, and he's the guy that we played Kill Team with last week, or one of the guys. Mike's wife is due to have a baby anytime soon. Could happen in the middle of this live stream. She might wait until afterwards. But he says he's put in. It's actually 5 minutes ago. I can't miss it. Nice one. So that's your daughter and your cat. I assume that Arnie is the cat. So good evening to Alicia. I hope you're well. We've got Tim Kelly's coming as well. He says, hi, Andy and all. Good evening, Tim. Hope you're well, mate. And Adam says, so Monopoly, does it destroy families? That would be a really short live chat, that one, because the answer is just yes. We don't have to go into any kind of any background. It's just yes. We got Rich Hudson. Did I miss you out earlier on, Rich? I can't remember if I said hello to you, mate. I must have skipped over your name somehow. Good evening, Rich. Sorry, I remember you see it coming up then. I forgot it. He says he's terrain building again tonight. I saw your picture, mate, on WhatsApp. I think between us all, we're just churning through all this new terrain, aren't we? It's amazing to think. I'll come on to what the topic is in a minute, but it's amazing to think that we've all played kind of bigger scale games, be that AOS or 40k or whatever it is, and we keep talking about, not so much you, Mike, I know you've got loads of terrain, but like a kind of like, I never get enough terrain to build these games. We start playing a skirmish game, and all of us have got like enough terrain to fill about 5 tables now. Gary says, my nearly 2-year-old can say it a little bit normally. Oi, oi, then something close to Savaloy. John agrees. Yes, Monopoly does. And Gary's, Mr. Spooky Thing says the parenting done right. Gary says, last time family played it, it ended up as scrap. My mum punched one of my brothers. And Tim says, Monopoly should be banned. Broken up more families than Smack. That's probably about right. So yeah, that would be a short live chat. We've all just agreed Monopoly breaks up families. However, the live chat topic of the evening this night, I'll rephrase that. The live chat topic for this evening, tonight, is, are skirmish games the future of wargaming? Let me put that into some kind of context. So, everyone knows I've been a little bit hyped for Kill Team as of recently, and what I'm hearing more and more online is the amount of people that are stepping down from 40k to play Kill Team, and the amount of people that are getting back into wargaming because of Kill Team. So we'll be delving into that as the chat goes on. So let that one soak in. Get into the chat what you want to talk about it. It's not specifically about Kill Team, but I would say that because of Kill Team, it's prompted me to want to raise this question. Just about kind of, and I'll probably come onto this as well as one of my points, is a company now starting out with no other miniature games would be a little bit mad to try and go in with a full-scale army war game. And I think that people's attitudes to gaming have changed. People's time they've got available to play has changed. And new people coming into the hobby and not looking for full sort of 100 model army scale games that take 3 or 4 hours to play. So there's a few things to kind of get the cogs turning and let you think about it. That's the topic for tonight. We've got Neil saying don't say the M word. And Christian says the M word destroys friendships as well. I think it pretty much just ruins any relationship you've got with anybody you play with, to be fair. And we've got Skull Munch in as well. Says, good evening, buddy. Good evening, Skull Munch. I hope you're well. As is now customary, I have my Ultramarines. You can just kind of see it. Tankard of brew there. So that's cheers again to Ross for that. Thank you very much. Gary says, I truly believe they are. So this, I guess this is getting onto the topic a little bit already. Gary says, I truly believe they are. They're quick to learn, quick to play, take Walking Dead, easy to pick up and play, and easy to store, cheap to start. We don't have to feel like we need huge armies. And that's quite interesting as well, because so we had a game of Kill Team last week. I'd managed to get my first Kill Team painted up. I've then gone raking through all of the bits that I've bought over the years, bits and pieces, to try and see kind of what I've got already. And I've already got fully painted. I've got a Necron Kill Team. I'll put some pictures up on Facebook later on. But I've got 100 points of Necron Warriors that I can use to kind of start off. I want to flesh that out with some flayed ones and some Immortals and some what's the other ones? I forget what they are now. Yeah, I forget the other ones. I'll flesh them out at some point, but I've already got another one sort of painted, ready to allow me to play them. I've been digging through all of my old Orc stuff, or my son's old Orc stuff, I should say, and I have done my first little test model there. The green screen's kind of picking up there on him. Green skin's picking up on his green skin. But yeah, first little test model of my first little Orc, and I've been digging through all of my bits box and everything, finding all the bits of weapons and stuff. So I'm not even have to spend anything. I've got more stuff tucked away to kind of already make a start on what will be my third army already. So yeah, it's that like kind of that low entry point, I would say. It's definitely invigorated my kind of my excitement for the game as well. Neil says he still wants to build his chapter-sized Marine army, but with a depth and narrative as Kill Team. I think that's something I think my intention is I'm going to get myself probably 3 or 4 Kill Teams. And then what I think I'll do is I'll start to flesh out a bigger army at some point, because it would be quite nice, even just from a display point of view, it would be quite nice to have a full army. And maybe I get the odd game in when I've got a bit more time. And now I feel like having chatted to Mike during the week, we're saying if you get your head around Kill Team, you're probably 2/3 of the way there to kind of being able to play and understand 40k anyway. Probably more than 2/3 of the way there. So John says he's been playing mostly roll and write games. Had a break from the war games last couple of weeks. It's nice to mix it up a little bit, isn't it? I think I'd kind of had a little bit of a break. I've been really, I was on a bit of a board game and kind of mission for a while as well. And don't get me wrong, I still love board games and I still keep playing them. But I was digging into them, especially with holidays and things like that. So I felt ready to come back with war games. And Kill Team just kind of was the right game at the right time for me as well. Mark is saying he would also agree due to time and cost mainly. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because what were time and cost? Time and cost must have always been a kind of a consideration for everybody. However, these days, skirmish games have given us that choice. So I think back before skirmish games were a big thing, it was almost a case of if you wanted to play 40k, you just had to accept it was going to take a while and it was going to cost money. But that didn't stop it becoming a really, really popular game. So it's interesting now that with I feel that with Games Workshop getting into that skirmish market, with Necromunda, but more so with Kill Team, I think, which is definitely more accessible. I definitely see a bit of a change on the horizon, I would say. And I might cover this in a future video, but I do wonder whether this is going to put a bit of a dent in the big scale 40k and actually have Games Workshop created a little bit of a beast with Kill Team. Is it going to end up being that stepping stone to 40k, or is it more likely to pull people in the other direction? Kev is saying people dip in and out of skirmish games. It's always been that way. It's just that GW took a huge break from doing them. Necromunda, Shadow War, now Kill Team, Shadespire, all come and go. Mike says Kill Team was an unexpected pleasure and is really taking over my 40k energies. That's kind of where I'm coming from, really. That I'm hearing more and more about people who love 40k. Don't get me wrong, but those fast-paced, low model count games and quite narrative, I think you'd agree, starting to pull people down into skirmish games rather than push them up into war games. Says you got Fallout Wasteland on pre-order, and I'm much more excited to get it now as I feared. After playing so much 40k, I'd find it a bit lacking. I'd be interested to kind of see what you think of that when it arrives, mate. I must admit, I was really keen on it at one point, but it just feels like it's like everything. They're another company, actually, Modifius, or a company that haven't really kept the hype going for it. It's almost kind of, they took all the pre-orders and then forgot about it. It turned up at a few shows, but it could do with a bit of press, could do with a little bit of kind of excitement around it, I think, to really get it kickstarted again. John says, I do love skirmish games much more. I find them easier to teach my friends. I backed Hate in Kickstarter, and I'm excited for that one to come in the mail. I must admit, I was quite keen on Hate as well. It was a really angry trailer for it, you know, like a kind of the sort of teaser trailer for the Kickstarter. It was a really angry trailer, but the game looked pretty good, I must admit. I remember watching a playthrough of it on Beasts of War, I think it was. It did look fun. We've got Scout on the web says, hey, late at the party. Better late than never, Lee. Always good to have you join us, mate. Always good to have you. Adam says, it's an entry point for 40k, but if other companies just have a small skirmish game, the small footprint will suit the pocket money base kids and parents who are time poor because of kids. I thought it was going to be the entry point into 40k. I'm starting to think that maybe actually it might not be, and that it's because it's such a good game on its own. It's almost a case of people might paint and collect, but for me personally, it's making me want to paint a small force of many armies, not just keep building one big army and then eventually, while I'm playing Kill Team with my 10 models, I'll eventually get a 40k army. It's making me want to do a bit of Orcs, a bit of Necrons, a bit of Death Guard, a little bit of Tau or something like that. It's making me want to have multiple little forces that I would never ever do for 40k. And I'm hearing that more from other people as well. So, Basic Miniature Painting said, I think skirmish game. Oh, this chat jumped there. I think skirmish games. Where the hell did that go? Bloody hell! There's a load of chat just come rushing through there. Sorry about that. I think skirmish games are perfect for people who are new to the whole 40k AOS hobby of ours, and perfect for people like me who've got 25 years and never played the game. It'll be a perfect way to get into it. I'm in a similar boat to be honest, mate. As well, I mentioned in a Facebook group today. I've tried many times to get into 40k, and that full scale army barrier is always the barrier that stops me. The time to get them armies painted. This is a different world, but I don't think it's just limited to Kill Team. I think it's just because of the popularity of 40k and GW. When they come out with a really good kind of skirmish game, and I'm not saying Necromunda isn't, but we'll chat about why I don't think Necromunda fits this bill. I just think that other companies are the same. Mantic's done a great job with Dead Zone. Walking Dead has kind of also done a great job for them. Be interesting to see what Kings of War Vanguard does. Does that kind of attract some of the fantasy gamers? Because AOS doesn't necessarily have that sort of jumping in point. I think even games like War Machine used to be quite skirmish level, and it grew over time to be slightly more, a little bit army based. I would say probably where like Star Wars Legion is, and even they've come back with, I think it's called Company of Iron, which is almost like a skirmish level game. Malifaux exactly the same, 8-10 models aside. These are all games that have kind of capitalized, I think, a little bit while GW was sleeping for a few years. Games Workshop have really upped their game again and come back, but I think skirmish games are definitely the future for new people to the hobby. And that's, if you've got a young kid and you take him into a Games Workshop, you've got a 14-year-old son, you take him into Games Workshop, he wants to be able to get a box of models and start playing. And that's really difficult to do with either 40k or EOS. We've got Christian saying skirmish games definitely the way forward. Space and time are getting more limited. Quick to set up and play games are great for home games, but big battles are great for competitions. That's a really good point, Christian. I honestly think that tournament player is what will keep 40k going. I think that's where we'll kind of see it. I'll be interested to see what they do with tournaments or kind of competitive player for Kill Team. But I think the big tournaments and the people that already have the big armies will keep it going for now anyway. Robert says, I like skirmish games because of space, time, and low model count. Couldn't agree more, Robert. Couldn't agree more. Tony saying thinks skirmish games really have a solid place in the hobby. Quick to learn, set up, and tear down. Yeah, I mean, Tony, from your side of things, mate, I mean, Guild Ball really does explain that as well. It's a game that I really did enjoy when I've kind of played the few games I've played. There's not a local player base here, and it's a game you need to play quite regularly. I would say that there's a lot of synergies between models and rules, but that kind of like eight players on a team or 6 players on a team, it's the perfect level of kind of models and stuff. And that's why people end up getting multiple teams or multiple guilds. Tony also says there's some game systems also appearing that can be scaled. Joan of Arc, for example, can be played battle, skirmish, siege, RPG, and full-on war game. That's something else to kind of consider as well. Is it the fact that this kind of narrative play, open play, and matched play, do you think that's having an impact? The fact that Games Workshop is actually actively catering to multiple markets, do you think that's had an impact? Neil says he's just built his 6x4 table for nothing. I can play on the dining table with Kill Team. I'll cut it down. Do you know what it is, Nick? I've just bought a 6x4 folding table as well, so I can use it in the house rather than having to dive into the garage. And I must admit, there was a point in me thought, why the hell have you bought this? However, I would like to think that my gaming over time does escalate back up to those big scales. I'll still play Star Wars Legion, which is 6x3, so I'll be playing that on the bigger table. It also means that when the guys come over kind of during the week or whatever, we can get sort of 2 or 3 games on the one board as well, or we can get those kind of multiplayer games going. So it's not a complete waste, mate, and it's always nice to have plenty of space as well to put all your books and your dice and everything else as well. So especially when you've got the space for a 6x4 table. Tony says something I'd like to see GW do with Lord of the Rings. I guess that's something else we'll probably chat to as well, especially with Lee being around as well. After I made my confession of never seeing the Lord of the Rings films, I started watching the Fellowship of the Ring on Sunday afternoon. So much to people's surprise. Mark says, yeah, Mark's agreeing with Tony as well. We've got Andy in as well from Peninsula Painting Projects. Good evening, man. Says this would never replace my large-scale games. Do you play, Andy? Do you play a lot of large-scale games? Because I think what the conversations we've certainly had is people that play bigger scale games play a lot less of them, and when they start to get into these small scale, especially Kill Team with its extra small scale game, you play a lot more games because it's not as difficult. It doesn't take as long to play. It doesn't take as long to set up. It's not as difficult to find a space to play them on. I think you'd be surprised if you tried Kill Team or you try some smaller skirmish games. I think you'd be surprised how it might affect your overall gaming. I was surprised, to be fair. Gary's saying, Tony, they did a great job when they released Mines of Moria and Escape from Goblin Town. Those were perfect skirmish games. I don't know a lot about them, so I'm relying on you guys tonight to tell me a bit about Lord of the Rings and stuff. Like I say, fantasy wasn't really my thing back then. It certainly wasn't when I was a kid, really. So I've not read the Lord of the Rings books either, to be fair. So bit of a confession there. John says, I bought Kill Team, didn't want to be left out anymore. Excited for it to come and teach it to my mom. I think there's definitely an element of hype that goes with these kind of games, isn't there? You know, once you see a few people playing them and it's all anybody's talking about online. I am conscious, and we had a little bit of a discussion about this in the Facebook group today. I am conscious I've been talking about Kill Team quite a bit. However, I think half of the issue is there's a lot of talk about Kill Team at the minute. If you give it a few weeks, Adeptus Titanicus will come out and Kill Team will start to be kind of not forgotten about, but certainly from a YouTube point of view and a Facebook point of view, you'll probably hear a bit less about it. There's lots of people, I mean, I think Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games has been having a Kill Team week. However, all those channels that get all of the free GW stuff, they're all starting to paint up their Titanicus stuff. Adeptus Titanicus, they're all starting to paint that stuff up now. So you'll start to see all those videos coming through. It's had a big impact on my channel, as whenever I do anything that is quite current and is quite popular, whether that be Hellboy, whether that's X-Wing, whether it was Shadespire, it always kind of spikes my views. It always spikes my my subscriber base as well. But I do these videos about Kill Team because I genuinely enjoy the game, and I genuinely I play it in my spare time kind of thing. So that's why I'm doing them. It doesn't mean I'm not doing other games. It doesn't mean I'm not doing board games as well. But I do appreciate that Kill Team, and especially Games Workshop stuff, isn't everybody's taste. Neil says, the only way I would get into Lord of the Rings is through a skirmish game release. So what is the new box then? The new Lord of the Rings box that's coming out? Is that a skirmish game? Is it part of an army scale game? I literally don't know anything at all about it. We've got Throatsaw in. Good evening, Throatsaw. Hope you're well. Says, I come from a time when GW didn't cost a lot of money. I think it's all relative. Did GW not always cost a lot of money? Is it just that we look back on it now and think, oh, I remember when 10 Space Marines used to be a tenner? Was the tenner not expensive back then? I can't remember. I vaguely remember kind of buying the odd model when I was a kid with my friends, and I could only buy one kind of thing. I don't remember being able to kind of like buy boxes of the stuff, but maybe I'm kind of remembering it different as well. Mike says, I think Kill Team is more a magnet for those who wouldn't have played 40k rather than take away. Yeah, maybe that's the case. I think people who play 40k regularly will continue to play 40k, and they'll probably mock Kill Team with its lack of units and no vehicles and no flyers and all that kind of thing. I think people who want to play 40k but might literally play once every 6 months, or people like me who it takes forever to build an army, I think they think of themselves as 40k players, but they actually don't play very often. I think that those might be the ones that this pulls away from. And then as time goes on, if new people are coming into the hobby, people who are generally a bit less patient and probably have less time, I do wonder whether over a period of time, if Kill Team continues to be as successful as it seems to be at the minute, does it stop the tide of people going up into full-scale games? And I guess that's what I mean by is Skirmish Games the future? Tony is saying to Gary, shows that they can do it. We'll definitely give those two a look. Throatsaw says Rogue Traitor started in Skirmish. It did, mate. Yeah, I mean, you've got a question mark there. I'm assuming, yeah, asking if it did. Everybody, that's very generalizing. A lot of people I've chatted to online have said Kill Team feels like what 40k used to be, like back in its roots. And I think with the release of the Rogue Trader expansion from Kill Team coming later this year, I think that will also kind of generate a bit more interest as well. We've got it's going fast again now. Bloody hell, where's all this chat come from? Wow. Sorry about this, guys. I'm trying to play a catch up here. The chat's going that fast tonight. Mike is saying Modifius had issues getting the game signed off by Bethesda. Apparently, that might be why it seems to have quietened down, mate. BMP saying, don't forget all our man, the legend, is only 92 subs away from 3,000. Go BlackJack Legacy. Yeah, I mean, when I was chatting last week, I can't remember where I was subscribers wise. I think I was at something like 2,770, 780 or something like that. And I'm over 2,800 now. At over 2,900 now. Sorry. It's really I've had a big spike because of this Kill Team stuff. I guess it's purely kind of just finding the gap. I think where there's a lot of people doing battle reports. There's not a lot of people actually talking about the game itself. So I think I've kind of hit a little niche there. But thank you very much for that. Yeah, anybody that's not subscribed, feel free to subscribe. Please do. Timothy and Skirmish Games are perfect for him. 3 nearly teens in the house, workloads and away lots. So isn't something I've got loads of. It's interesting, isn't it, though? Because I think we all feel like this, but for a lot of us, I think maybe Kill Team's been the one that's tipped us over. I think what happens is when a new game comes out, so if we take Star Wars Legion as a good example, it started from a zero base, basically, with hardly any miniatures out. And I've found that a little bit frustrating as a sort of somebody that wants to kind of keep going with the game. And I've almost imposed a ban on myself buying anything until there's at least a few more units out so I can start to build out sort of the units. Otherwise, all I'd do is I'd just buy every release and sit and paint it up, and buy the next release and sit and paint it up. What I want to do is pick and choose and theme it and make it feel nice, make it seem nice, and put the characters in I want. That's where Necromunda suffered a little bit, is because it was all new models. So Necromunda has had releases quarterly or however often it's been. People are still waiting for other factions to come out or other kind of gangs to come out that they want to paint. Kill Team has hit the ground running from day one with everything available. That's why everything's in that one book, and I think that's why it's grabbed a lot of people. Because we're starting from the finish line almost, rather than waiting for models and waiting for things to come out. Throatsaw says Mantic are doing 3 scales in the Warpath universe, and it all seems to work. Yeah, I think certainly Dead Zone is that kind of small boards. And please, I actually really love the Dead Zone mechanics. I love the game. I think it plays really well. I think it suffers from a lack of player base, and I know it's kind of it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? If nobody plays it, then nobody will play it, kind of thing. But I think I think there's pockets of Mantic communities around, isn't there? And I honestly do love the Mantic rule set. I think they make some great games. I just think GW's got a big hold, and it needs something more to really kick them over and start to kind of pick up a wider player base. Lee saying, since starting listening to your channel, my mindset is gearing towards Skirmish games. Now it isn't my time, but I'm watching it with interest, and maybe I'll see what other Skirmish games I want. I think the other thing, Lee, with Skirmish games is you don't have to feel like you're all in. So, for example, when I first started playing Malifaux, when Malifaux first came out with the first ever rules, I kind of bought a couple of little starter boxes, and I played with them for ages. And then I quite happily picked up some War Machine on the side, and I played that for a little bit. And I never felt like I'd spent like £300 or £400 on an army and spent like 6 months painting it. I'd kind of painted up these 5 or 6 models in a couple of nights. And whilst I was having loads of fun playing the game and I was traveling to tournaments and kind of getting out and socializing, it started to become about the game and having fun with other people and less about the kind of the very isolating hobby aspect for me, because it can be quite isolating just sitting there just trying to churn through stuff. So I find skirmish games and chopping and changing games for me keeps my hobby side of things interesting. But I honestly think for me, it's the playing the games that I get the most enjoyment out of. I do love painting and I enjoy the painting, but for me, it's a 50-50 thing. I really do want to play as much as sit and paint as well. Where are we now? Chat's bouncing around all over tonight, guys. Tim is saying size of more skirmish games is perfect for the house too. Haven't got a dedicated room in the house for gaming. Tiny violin players. So setup and takedown needs to be quick. That is another thing as well, especially when you've got kids around the house or it's a dining room table. You can't leave a game set up overnight or whatever it is. It is a massive consideration. Kyle's has just come in as well. It says, evening, sorry I'm late. Don't worry about it, buddy. Always good to have you here. Kyle is another guy that is one of our local gaming group as well. So we're going to have Kyle's going to have an introduction game of Kill Team on Thursday night at my house. So looking forward to that, Kyle. We'll sort you out with models and stuff, mate, so you don't need to bring anything but yourself. Rich says, for me, I haven't played 40k for 20 years. Played Kill Team 3 nights in a row last week, and it's amazing. And he also says, I see that I will get me back into 40k fully, as well as playing Kill Team itself. I think Rich, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I think you do enjoy those bigger games, and I think you've got a competitive edge to you as well. I think you like to kind of get into those tournaments as well. Maybe it's be interesting to see if you'd be interested in going to any Kill Team tournaments, because I'm starting to toy with that at the minute, because I do love that kind of playing multiple games in one day. It's not about the winning for me. It's more just the fact that I can go somewhere and play loads of games. That's what I'm thinking about. Mark says, although Skirmish fits the player versus player, I'll always have more pull towards the games that have a solo campaign on narrative styles. Also, yeah, I guess Kill Team isn't going to have a naturally solo element, but it definitely has a narrative element to it. So even when we've been playing the matched play games, there's a story that comes out of it. And I know when Rich and Mike played the other night, they had 2 games of Kill Team where the outcome of one game impacted on the second game. I forget what it was, whether you got extra command points or something like that. They might correct me in the chat. But I like that it's I like that kind of like the way that it does feel narrative as well as competitive. Gary says Frostgrave is a good skirmish game and you can use any models you want. I've heard lots of good things about Frostgrave, Gary. I think it's, from what I understand from the guys telling me, it's another game a little bit like Necromunda that benefits from a campaign or benefits from playing multiple games to see your wizards level up, and less so for the one-off games. I think that's right. Adam is saying Infinity is really big in my local, but I just can't get past the art style. It's interesting that, Adam, because I actually really love the art style of Infinity, but I find the rules quite, they're a bit crunchy for me. There's a bit too many. That's why I struggle with Necromunda. I much prefer a quite simple rule set, something that allows me to play the game and think about the tactics, not think about the rules. And I don't know why that is, but Kill Team seems to have kind of flicked that switch for me at the minute, and I'm sure at some point something else will come and flick that switch. But I find the rules are the barrier for me. But I like the art style. I think it's definitely if you're into the kind of the Japanese anime and Akira and Ghost in the Shell and that kind of thing, you'll definitely you'll find an affinity with it rather than an infinity. But if it's not for you, it's not for you. Flip Movie Maker says he agrees. Since Kill Team hit, I came back to the hobby. I've made Grey Knights, Deathwatch, and Astra Militarum teams thus far, with no real desire to flesh out any of them to full-scale armies. Grey Knights and Deathwatch, great choices. What chapter did you go for the Astra Militarum? Sorry, I'm thinking Adeptus Astartes there. So you've got your kind of your guard stuff there as well. It's interesting because for example, like I said, I'm kind of, you know, making a start with this orc thing here. I would never dream in a million years of trying to build a 40k orc army. You need to be a really dedicated orc player, I think, to do that. But for this, I know for a fact I can't have more than 20 models in my kill team, so that's all I'll ever have to worry about. So, yeah. Adam is saying to Gary, he looked into Frostgrave, looks good, but no local support. Yeah, it's definitely one of them games. You need a kind of nucleus of 3 or 4 people who are willing to kind of play through a campaign. And I see Necromunda very, very much in that same light. They don't play well in them simple... You can play them like that, but that you don't get the best from them games in them one-off kind of games. Lee saying, do you think skirmish games have a more complex rule set? I've seen some Necromunda games, for example, last a long time, and they have the leveling up mechanics too, so less hobby time, but you get the same game time. I think some skirmish games do. I think somebody described, because I'm going to be doing a video in the next few days about Necromunda versus Kill Team, if you like. Not as a kind of which is the best, but there's a lot of people asking, well, there's already a skirmish game set in the Warhammer 40k universe. Why do we need Kill Team? So I want to address some of them questions. And somebody explained it to me, is that, what was the exact phrase? I forget now. But it's something like the difference between the two games, one was detail versus speed. And I think that's where skirmish games come in. There's some skirmish games like Kill Team that are all about fast player, kind of some more abstract kind of rules about you really have to like sort of suspend disbelief a little bit. So for example, you can't sneak up behind somebody in Kill Team. They've got 360-degree vision all the time. So that some of them are built for speed. Dead Zone is exactly the same. Really simple rule set, but there's a lot of tactics in the placement and in what armies you choose and what models you choose for your faction. And then you get games like Necromunda, where it's really, really crunchy, really detailed rule set, where your models have got a face in and you can pick up grenades and throw them back. And then there's lots of different kind of injury stuff. And then there's all the post-game stuff as well about, you know, who levels up to what. And this changes that. And then you go and model away that other little model with a different weapon on them. I think it just depends on the game, Lee, to be fair. I think it's some games have to be like Necromunda, I think. Some games have to be skirmish games because to put that level of detail into them, it would just grind to a halt if you try to go up to a full army scale game. Surviving with Greg says, hi as all. Good evening, Greg. I hope you're well, mate. Greg and I had a little bit of a chat about some rules today online in the comments of one of the videos. So thank you for joining us, Greg. I think we're a new subscriber. You subscribed today as well, so thank you very much for that. Christian says, I think the release of Space Wolves and Gene Stealer 2 player set will get me into Kill Team fully. I quite like that set. I've seen some mixed reviews today of people not being overly happy with it. I think it's quite a nice set, to be honest, but don't play 40k, so it's probably not aimed at me, but maybe that's why I think it's alright. Throat Sauce says, I can play Dead Zone on a bigger table. I'm planning scenarios just to do it. Yeah, Dead Zone scales up as well, and it's another game like Kill Team where you can put multiple mats together and you can butt them up and make a much bigger game. Andy is saying I play once every 3 months, but I've recently been playing every week. Yeah, if you're playing every week, I think and you're enjoying 40k is great. But I think if you play every 3 months, I don't know the reason why you only play every 3 months, Andy. If it's because you're working or family or whatever it is, but if it's because it's difficult to find somewhere to play or it's difficult to fit in that amount of gaming time, it's worth having a game of Kill Team just on the side. Even if you still played every 3 months, but you had a game of Kill Team every few weeks or every month or whatever, you'd be surprised actually how it sort of almost complements it. Throats also saying, agree with Andy, play skirmish, but it won't replace big games. I can do both. Choice is good. If you can do both, all power to you. I personally can't. Maybe I will as time goes on if Kill Team becomes a bigger part of my game and stuff, and I do decide to kind of try and step up to 40k. But I think the barriers to 40k are still there regardless of Kill Team for me. Andy's saying, yeah, check it out. Kev saying Lord of the Rings has Battle Companies, which is campaign skirmish version. I need to do a bit more reading up on about it. I don't know a lot about the Lord of the Rings stuff. Gary saying problem with GW and skirmish games is that they don't fully back them up with books and expansions as much as they could. We need to appeal to GW for free stuff for Andy. I'm not at all worried about getting free stuff from Games Workshop. What I would say is that the guys that get the free stuff, they end up putting themselves, I would say, under quite a bit of pressure to learn the game, paint the box set up, make a load of videos, get them out at the right time, and kind of keep on that hamster wheel. It's no surprise that Games Workshop keeps sending them stuff, because actually it doesn't give them a lot of time to play anything else. So if it ever happens, it happens. But it's, you know, I'm quite happy to buy the things that I want to play when it comes to stuff like that. But to answer your question, is that they don't fully back them up with books and expansions. I think they're getting better. I think Necromunda, it's a balance with Necromunda. They've been releasing a gang war book and a new gang every quarter, I think it is roughly, which it feels a little bit slow for the gangs coming out, because there are people that are waiting for them gangs to play them. So it goes back to what I was saying about how Kill Team's got everything available from day one. And then I personally, well, from what I've read of the gang war books, because I've got a couple of them, I don't see the value in them, if I'm honest. They just keep adding bits to the rules, where it feels like that those rules could have all come out in one go, and the books, the expansion books, aren't necessarily needed. I think at some point they will do a kind of a compendium book, which almost feels like a bit of a cash grab when everybody's had to buy them separately anyway. So I'm not sure. With Kill Team, I think they've got a slightly different idea about supporting them, and I think the starter boxes that they're doing with the terrain and the tokens are a great idea. I like the way they did the little boxes for Shadespire as well, where they did a box with a set of cards as well. So I'm not sure. I think they're getting better. I think they're learning from each mistake they make, or from each release they try something different or try something a little bit better. So who knows what the future will hold, Gary. Art Wilson's in. Good evening, Art. Says Lord of the Rings is Battle Companies, which is smaller skirmish for the full version. Throat Saw says 3 rhinos for a $5. Yep, GW was cheap ones. It depends how far you're going back. I remember my mum telling me years ago that her first wage was a $5 a week. That might have been her week's wages. Tony is saying GW do seem to be pumping out quite a lot, very close together. And my concern is that if a game doesn't take off massively, it'll be abandoned. So I'm cautious about what GW stuff I get into. I would say that they are. I think if you have a look, I think they've definitely got a different business practice now. They've gone from the days of being a miniatures company to being a games company now, and they're certainly looking at the wider market of board games and card games and a competitive play, like what to kind of emulate what Wizards of the Coast and Fantasy Flight do. But they do have a lot of games in different areas. However, they're a big enough company to manage it. There's some other companies who have a lot of kind of eggs in the irons in the fire, if you like, that are maybe not so well resourced and kind of end up leaving things behind. But I know what you mean. I think the trick is to not get pulled into it all. So, for example, over the last few weeks, if you think we've had AOS 2.0, we've had Kill Team, we've had the Age of Sigmar Champions card game thing. We've got Adeptus Titanicus coming. The trick's not to get pulled into everything, I suppose, but that's easier said than done. Adam says, I don't know. Oh, it's just jumped off the top of the screen there as well. Sorry about that, gents and ladies. Have we got any ladies in? Wow, that did jump fast. I can't find where I was up to now. There we go. Adam says, I don't know if you can class it as a skirmish, but I'm looking forward to be able to buy Highlander by Riverhorse. I wonder if someone got to play it this week. I didn't, actually, Adam. I didn't get to play Highlander. However, I did get to see the miniatures, and I did get to see the first sort of like the test packaging, the test boxes and stuff. And the miniatures look fantastic. If you backed Highlander, at Kickstarter. I don't think I'm giving too much away here because it was in an interview that I'm due to release soon with Alessio. I think he said they're pretty much on the boat now, on their way. So it's kind of like it's imminent, I think. So yeah, it's looking pretty good, those miniatures, mind. Rich said, I don't think GW pricing is bad. Look at what you get in the starter sets. Look at Battle Force and Battalions. I see it as much more accessible to get in the GW games now than ever. And Rich says there shall only be one. I think the starter boxes and the kind of like the introduction sets are good value. However, from a pure retail perspective, the kind of like the 95 quid boxes is still 95 quid. That's a lot of money to spend on a game. But I think what you get in the box is value for money. They're just making you spend a lot of money to get that value. I think it's almost when a game's been out for a month or two and you get those 25 quid entry boxes, that's where I think the real value is in that. That's the way to kind of hook people in, I think. Lee is saying, seemingly Lord of the Rings, even at full size, is skirmish size comparable to some big games. However, with the cost of the Hobbit range seeing a big spike, it's not cheap to get an army. So how many, if you were playing Lord of the Rings, so this new box set that's coming out, if you're playing that, how many models aside is it? Like, you know, is it 10 models aside? Is it 50 models aside? I honestly have no concept of how that game is size-wise. Steve's saying, I think we look back at GW prices, not thinking how much more we earn, and that most of us have families to support instead of just gaming and beer addiction. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting my head around, really. I'm not really sure whether it was ever cheap or if it's just relatively priced. Has it gone up way in excess of inflation over the years? I feel like it has, but I'm not 100% sure. I remember first getting into painting 40k miniatures probably about 15 years ago, and I don't remember it being cheap back then, to be fair. We've got Gian Albela. Is that how have I pronounced that right? I apologize if not. But good evening. Hello, friend, to you too. Thank you very much for joining our live chat tonight. Tony is saying that Adam Highlander's a card game, basically, though, isn't it? Only a handful of minis. I saw quite a few miniatures, mine, I'll be honest, Tony. So whether it's like an expansion thing or something with it as well, I'm not sure, but I saw quite a few miniatures. Adam is saying, whatever it is, I'll be getting it. It needs to be a full release, though, as I've been burned by Kickstarter. I think it's already been Kickstarted, I think, to be honest. It's so it'll be full releases coming soon. Mike says there's other big companies out there that you could equally argue are expensive, but at the end of the day, talk to any normal, non-war gamer, normal person, and they would think any war game is bad value. I've got mates who spunk their money up the wall betting on footy or buy video game a week for 50 quid or have a season ticket. What's good value? What's expensive? And he also says, check out costs of radio control, car racing, fly fishing, stamp collecting, model railways, the list goes on. It's a really good point. I tend not to talk about value of things. Is value the right word? I tend not to say whether something is expensive or not, because I think that is relative to your income, your disposable income. For something that one person might say is expensive, it might be a drop in the ocean to somebody else. So expensive or cheap, or is a relative term. Value, I think, is something we can almost get our head around. Do we think we're getting value for money? For example, you wouldn't pay £95 for a single Space Marine, but you might pay £95 for a box of 50 Space Marines that were kind of, like in a new release or something like that. I'm just plugging figures out of thin air. When it comes, I think any miniature gaming company is expensive. I think even Mantic, who are cheap in comparison, or less expensive, I should say, in comparison to maybe Games Workshop, they're still not like kind of giving the things away. It's not like they're kind of 20p a model stuff. It's still, there's still money in there as well. I used to be into airsoft. I think I've mentioned a couple of times. That can be really expensive. It's like, it can be 40 quid a day to go and play if you're hiring stuff. If you want to buy your own stuff, you've got to buy safety goggles, you've got to buy a gun, you've got to buy BBs, you've got to buy batteries that you need multiple batteries to charge. Your guns can range anywhere from like hundreds to thousands of pounds. You need to buy boots. You still need to pay your game day fees, which are normally about 20-25 quid every time you play. that mounts up really quick as well, especially when you're paying for 2 sons as well. The 3 of you are all playing together. That gets expensive. So it is all relative to each other. We've got Rain in again tonight. Good evening, Rain. Hello there. Says, sorry I'm late. What did I miss? Don't apologise for being late. Really glad you can make it. We're talking about skirmish games tonight, Rain. About our skirmish games, the future of wargaming. Will we see the big army scale games like AOS, like 40k? Will we see them kind of diminishing over time in favour of smaller skirmish games? Mike says, skirmish games now mean that... I'll rephrase that. Skirmish games, though, now mean that buy-in is a lot lower, so they tend to have really passionate gamers. That's a really good point. We've got Michael in as well from Miniature Painting. He says the idiot's in. Good evening, Michael. I hope you're well, buddy. Mike saying game 1 was find the location of the astropath. Bloody hell, there must be a lot of chatting tonight when that's going back some time to that one, isn't it? Sorry I'm not keeping up, guys. There's quite a lot in the chat tonight, and it's really good fun. I'm enjoying the chat, but my God, I can't keep up. Andy says, oh, sorry, I'm going to work on a team, but I'm scared that it will lead me to collecting more armies. Well done, GW. Well done. We all fell for the trap, buddy. We all fell for it. You probably find you've already got a kill team. If you play 40k, you'll be able to make a kill team out of what you've got. Just use that and just give it a try, mate. See what you think. Rain says, bought the Skaven Shadespire team. Mate has the base game, and I'm painting the rats at the moment. The to-be painted queue just keeps getting longer. I think we've all got one of them. It's like 1 gets painted and 3 more gets bought. You'll never ever get to the bottom of that. It's like a leaking bucket, isn't it? The water's dripping out, but you just keep filling it up faster than it's leaking. Mike says, game 2, the winner of the game was the attacker and the defender. Sorry, one was the attacker, one was the defender, and had to stop them grabbing the astropath and escaping. That's what I mean about how even these one-off games from Kill Team can be turned to like kind of narrative events through Unite and stuff as well. Tony saying, would really suggest watching the gameplay video on Highlander. I'm a huge fan of the movies, but the game left me underwhelmed, and I was so hyped when I heard it was being done. To Adam, that is. I didn't see the gameplay videos, if I'm honest, so I'm not sure. I can't sort of have an opinion on that one. We've got James Floyd Kelly in. Good evening, James. How are you doing? Says Frostgrave and Gaslands are both quite popular in Atlanta. Frostgrave has a resurgence of interest, and Gaslands is new and taking off. I love both games, and I'm in heaven in Atlanta. If you've got a local gaming group that are playing games you love, there's nothing better. Nothing better at all. And that's kind of where I am. I got in with my gaming group to play AOS, and I kind of fell out of love with it a little bit as General's Handbook 2017 came out. It changed a few things. I wasn't feeling it really. And I kind of have felt out of the loop a little bit. I've tried to keep in with the guys and keep the chat going and stuff, but I have kind of felt out of the loop a little bit. With Kill Team, I feel like it's kind of pulled me back in. There's a few guys that kind of playing it, and it's kind of pulling me back into a smaller group again. Tony is saying Infinity looks great to me, but the rules are seemingly complicated. I think they're they're complicated. There's a lot of rules. You spend a lot of time looking things up, I would say. I know Mike played Infinity quite a bit a while ago, and I think, Mike, I might be right speaking for you, but I'd say when 3rd edition came out, you kind of fell out with it a little bit. We've got Bazar in as well from Underdog Payton. Good evening, Bazar. How are you doing? Adam says to Tony that the videos are good, but as an example, I played the Fallout board game this weekend. Thought it was amazing, but the videos were piss poor. I said in the Facebook chat today, when I was at UK Games Expo, I had a demo from the Fantasy Flight guy of Fallout, the board game, and it was something I was really looking forward to. I almost just bought it blindly, and I thought, oh, I'll have a demo of it first. And the guy doing the demo didn't have a clue what he was doing. He set the board up wrong. He kind of didn't really tell us what we were doing, and then wandered off. We had to call somebody else over, and they were saying, well, you're doing this wrong, and that shouldn't be there. And it really put me off the game. So I would say it was definitely a bad demo rather than a bad game, but it put me off giving it a second try, if I'm honest. I probably should go back to it at some point. Robert is saying he had to slow down on getting minis and terrain. Got too much waiting on the paint table. Yeah, you and me both, mate. Kill Team kind of put everything on hold. I'm trying really hard not to buy anything more for Kill Team because I have got so much that I can use at the minute. So I've got miniatures that I bought years ago and I never did anything with them. I've got all my terrain to paint up now. So this is, for me, this is my kind of like hold off time, if you like. And I'm going to start bursting through that stuff. Mark said he was close on back in Highlander, but the game just wasn't there. Great minis though. Lee says Skirmish having complex rules was a positive, by the way. Well answered. I didn't realise some had faster paced play. Good to know. Yeah. Complex rules for me just make my head spin. I don't spend enough time playing to really get into the nitty gritty of the rules. I would say me doing these kill team kind of 6 rules that beginners get wrong thing. By doing that kind of research, it makes me get in and read the book and really understand the rule and try to be, even though I make mistakes, to try and really understand it before I'll put it on a video. And that has really like helped me. What's also helped me as well has been in the Facebook groups and trying to answer people's rules queries. So it makes me go searching in the rule book, find the answer to go back and answer them. And I honestly feel now like I've kind of got my head around the rules and I could play 95% of the game without referencing the rule book now. I don't think I'd ever get there with that, with like something like Necromunda. I think that I would struggle with that one, I think. So Kill Team, for example, Lee plays in about 45 minutes. Necromunda, I think, would probably still be an hour and a half, couple of hours. Tony is saying to Adam, Beast of War played it and suggested it mainly as seemed to be my way closer to a collectible card game deck builder. Fallout is brilliant. Robert saying Gaslands is also a great game. Time extended issues are coming out now. Adam says, yeah, I've seen lots of good things about Gaslands and Gangs of Rome. Yeah, Gangs of Rome is another one as well. That's kind of, it seemed to get a bit of a spike. It's gone a little bit quiet at the minute, but I think there's still a big community playing it. When I went to see Riverhorse last week, the building where they're in, it's unbelievable how many miniatures companies are in that same little area. Warlords in there, Footsoul Miniatures who do Gangs of Rome are in there. Wargames Illustrated's in there. Can't even remember half of them, but there's so many companies in that building. It's unbelievable. Jim says, gotta run, but I have to say I really enjoy all your videos, especially your commentary and these Monday live streams. Thank you very much, James. I really appreciate you coming and watching, and thank you for the kind words. Take care, buddy. Tony's saying the second time extended is up and looks awesome. Michael says, let's not forget the brilliant Walking Dead as a skirmisher. I did mention that earlier on, Michael. I'm not sure if you were around there, and I was saying that that is an example of another sort of easy to learn rule set that still has a lot of tactics in it as well. It's still one of my favorite games, and I mention it every time we talk about skirmish games or entry level games as well. We've got Silver MKI in. Good evening, buddy. Says I prefer skirmish games over larger ones. Ultimately, most large scale games are effectively 10 plus large based models with multiple attack wounds. Better to focus on smaller model count and good terrain. Yeah, I mean, even if you think back to old Warhammer Fantasy and Kings of War, I guess, really your big footprint troop of models is really one model, isn't it? You've just had to paint a lot to get that kind of footprint, if you like. So it is really, it's almost a skirmish game on a bigger scale, if you like. It's a funny way to look at it, that, but you're quite right. Tony says, bloody hell, is this going fast tonight? I'm trying to keep up with you all. Tony saying, miniature painting, good call. It reminds me I need to get some survivors painted this week for a tournament the week after. Yeah, you off to conflict. I know why I can't go now. I remember saying it was conflict with something. I'm actually on holiday. I'm going away on holiday for a week. So yeah, so it does conflict with something. Steve is saying, I'm sticking with 3 gangs and 3 books I have for Necromunda, as lots of other games on the building painting list. How do you find that, Steve, with all of the multiple books? I saw a really funny comment online the other day that said, I've almost got more books for Necromunda than I have gangers in my gang. And that kind of tickled me a little bit. That I didn't realise it had got just that bad. I think they said it was up to 5 books or something now. Michael saying, need some paint now, you freak. You reckon? Thanks, more money in the hobby drain. And Throtos is cheeky, I'm not that old. I'm assuming that was coming back to that my mum used to get £5 a week. How old are your Throats, if you don't mind me asking? I'm sure you're probably younger than me. DM13 says, love that AOS card game. Heard loads of good things about it. And the fact that it's a digital game as well. So you can kind of scan your cards in and play it digitally as well, which I think is really interesting. Art Wilson says, I can remember buying Space Hulk from a GW store for £20 in 1989. Is that really how much it was back in 1989? God. It was cheap back then, because how old was I in 1989? I think I'll have been 14, was I? Oh, yeah, I was about 14. So I was the right age to be buying it, but I was into sport then. I wasn't really into kind of miniature game. Is it something? Still down. Lee saying, I remember the cheap price is 40k, like getting my Blood Angel supplement for £4. However, my mum thought different and said it was expensive. Minimum wage was under £5 an hour at the time, I think. Yeah, when I had my first Saturday job, when I was in senior school, I was on £2 an hour. And I remember getting my driving lessons used to cost me £16 an hour for my driving lesson. So I'd work 8 hours on a Saturday at a Saturday job to get my £16 to have a driving lesson on the Monday. So, yeah, I guess it's all kind of relative, isn't it? We've got Millennium Card Games in saying hello. Good evening. I don't think we've spoken before, so thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope you're well. We're talking about skirmish games this evening. So, thank you for joining us. Feel free to join the chat. Lee saying Lord of the Rings, 700, 800 points is around 30 to 50 models. Some play smaller, 20 to 30 models in a full game. It's just what I picked up from the guys. No personal experience yet. I think in my head it was kind of at that 40, 50 model point level, but I don't know enough. I need to do a bit more digging, because I've heard a few times from people that Lord of the Rings is the best rule set that Games Workshop ever made. And I did have a brief conversation with Alessio the other day about it as well. Road sourcing, yep, it was cheap. Even in '88 when I started, we'd stopped using shilling by then. I don't remember shillings and pence, shillings and farthings, mate. But as I was saying, I love the fact the hobby's expensive. I like the fact you've got to save to get something. I think you take more care of what you bought. That is a really interesting point, actually. Do people agree? Do you take care of what you do? I think it makes me it makes me think about what I want to buy more, and I think it certainly doesn't make me want to. It makes me want to keep it rather than selling it, almost as if I've invested in something, rather than just kind of turn it over and flog it on kind of thing. It's funny that. Michael is saying the price of competitive RC car racing is expensive. I've done it in the club segment, drove a €1,500 car, and every 3 heats, new tyres worth €25 per 2 wheels, and that was on sand. The batteries cost about €65, worth about 4 races before getting lame. Yeah, hobbies are just expensive, man. If you're into photography or something like that, fishing, anything, everything's expensive. I think it's just because everyone's like, if you're into, let's have a think. If you're into a hobby like, let's say photography, nobody bats an eyelid when people pay 400 or 500 quid for like a lens for a camera. One of my mates is into diving. He's bought a boat. He's got to pay mooring fees for it. He's dry suits and his wetsuits and his tanks. He paid about 500 quid for a torch. Nobody bats an eyelid really in general when you spend it on that kind of thing. When you buy plastic toys for like 60 quid a box, everyone just looks at you like you're mental. And I think it's the connotation of us buying kids' toys for that kind of money that makes people think it's expensive, I think. As I was saying, I'm not trying to say kids these days are spoiled, but I see it all the time. But mum, buy me this, that's 50 quid, 100 quid. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I think people, I don't know whether if it's because we're a bit older and we kind of think back to, you know, when I got 50 pence pocket money kind of thing. And then I'm thinking about what kids get these days. But I think there's almost that kind of entitlement kind of younger ones, or not everyone, I'll say. My lads are not too bad, I'll be honest, but then that's probably my tight-fisted that's brought them up that way as well. Millennium Card Game says Magic the Gathering is quite costly, depending on cards you want in your deck. Yeah, I got into Star Wars Destiny Millennium, and I was surprised just how expensive that got very quickly. It wasn't expensive to play the game, it was just expensive to keep up with the changes. And I assume, having never played it, but I assume Magic the Gathering is very similar. We've got Broken Legion of Gamers in. Good evening, Nick. How are you doing, mate? Says, hey guys, to answer your question, yes, skirmish games are the future, but big games aren't going anywhere. I think it's more because the average age of a gamer is going and gamers have less time. I'd agree with that as well. But I think what it is, I think the younger people coming into the hobby are also have got less time. I think they've got multiple things now. When we were kids, when I was a lad, when we were kids, we didn't have kind of mobile phones, and you didn't get like a new computer game every week kind of thing. So I think you had more free time to just dedicate to a hobby. These days, kids have got stuff everywhere. They're on Instagram, they're on YouTube, they're on Facebook with their mates. They're playing mobile games, they're playing PC games, Xbox games. I just think they've kind of got more distractions. And the kids that do come into this from a creativity side of thing and a hobby side of thing, I think that they would prefer to play smaller games. And this is just from what my teenage sons are like. My teenage sons are not really into miniature gaming at all. Sam more so has always kind of been in and out of it. Adam, no interest at all. Not since he was about 8 or 9. He's now playing. He's asking to play a kill team with me now, and he wants to paint his own. To be fair, he wants to paint his own Death Guard. That is a complete turnaround, and that's purely because less models, simpler rules, plays in less than an hour. That's been the difference, and I think a lot of new people, younger people coming into the hobby, feel that way. I could be completely wrong, and I might be basing it on like my son and his friends, but I think that's where they are, if I'm honest. Tony is saying, could you use Space Marines from Space Hulk as a kill team? Yes and no, mate. So yes, because if you're just going to play with your mates, just call them Primaris Marines or whatever it is and have a game. No, because if they're Terminators in that box, and there's no Terminators in kill team. You could, however, use the Gene Stealers. Excuse me, you could use the Gene Stealers in kill team. Excuse me. Michael saying, depends on how you play Millennium card games. I've got €10 decks that play lovely, but the cheapest land in my older decks are €15 a piece. Magic can be as expensive as you afford it. Yeah, that was exactly what I found with Destiny as well. It's as expensive as you can afford to spend. Millennium saying, yeah, I love pulling boosters. Had a touch the other week pulling £40 card out. Nicely done. I've just sold a few of my Star Wars Destiny cards recently, actually, and one of them went for like 35 quid. I couldn't believe it. I made like 120 quid or something selling about 10 cards. Gary saying, GW Skirmish games are good, but feel like one-offs. They don't follow through with full expansions. They will release packs like in Shadespire, but no full expansions, unlike other companies. Give me an example, Gary. I don't know what you mean by that, because what for example, take Kill Team. What would you want as an expansion? Because I feel like we're getting those we're getting the kill zones, which are expansions for terrain and new boards, and there's specific rules for them. You've got the starter sets. You've also got Rogue Trader as an expansion coming out as well. So let me know what you'd like to see. Lee saying, I'm the same, Andy. When I tried Blood Bowl, I found that a bit complex, and I was just always lost in the game and didn't get the hang of it. I was exactly the same, buddy, as well. I really struggled with Blood Bowl randomly because the people I played knew a lot more than I did. I got my ass kicked every game, and I didn't understand why. And then as they kept winning, they just kept getting further away from me with all the upgrades, and I just felt like I was onto a loser before I even started. And I think in my head, Necromunda is the same. I think if you're not good at Necromunda, you don't understand the rules fully, you keep getting your ass kicked, and everybody else levels up and moves away from you. That's how I see Necromunda. That's why I like Kill Team, because that doesn't happen. Even when people level up, they still have that 100 points limit when you're doing your kind of campaign type stuff. Art is saying there's 84 miniatures in the new Lord of the Rings box set. That's plenty for a decent game in my opinion, though you can have a good game with half a dozen aside with the Battle Company rules. I'll have to have a look at it, I think. If I could buy the box set and never have to worry about kind of buying anything else, if there was enough in there to play, I could be tempted to have a punt on that one. Adam says, price makes me think, how many hours of work will this cost me? That's a really interesting way to look at it. So, for example, if you're on, let's just round it up, say let's take £10 an hour, just for the sake of rounding it up. If you buy sort of a Kill Team, let's say a Kill Team for 80 quid, that's a day's work. You know, you've had to put a full day's work in to buy that. It's a really interesting way to think about it. Fifth of your week's wages is going on that. Quite an interesting way to look at it. Mark says, I would say the cost stops me from buying everything straight away, then never paint play it, so I can see logic there. We've got Absurd in as well. Good evening, Absurd. He said he's just told my wife I'm buying 2 boxes of Tooth and Claw when it comes out. She's long suffering at this point. She's accepted it's plastic crack. Yeah, I mean, everyone, it's a bit of a joke calling it plastic crack, but it really is at times. Andy's saying, I've always said to my grandparents and my dad, not my mum, she fully supports my hobby, that it's either this or live a boring life and maybe I'll be doing or taking other things. Yeah, it's funny because I've had this conversation with my wife, and to be fair, she is really supportive of my hobby. She's really supportive of all of my YouTube stuff and that, and she encourages it rather than goes against it. But if I wasn't doing this, what would I be doing? Would I be just sitting around watching TV, not doing anything? Would I be down the pub watching the football with the lads every couple of nights? It's a funny one. I think if you've got a hobby that interests you, I think your family and your friends should be really supportive of it, because actually there's a lot of health benefits to having a hobby as well. I find it quite a bit of kind of like relaxation and stress relief. Sitting painting a miniature, really, I have to focus. Everything that's in my head, I have to kind of forget about. Any problems I've got at work, any issues, any projects I've got at work that I'm having a nightmare with, I have to forget about them and just concentrate on the model I'm painting. So I find that really kind of therapeutic, and I think I would like to think that people's family and friends would support that as well. Really good for your mental health. Michael saying, my son is still happy with 30 ml of milk. Glad to. Sleeping still is his hobby. Then again, he's only 2 days old. I forgot there, Michael. Yes, Michael has just become a father. Is it your first, Michael? I'm not sure if I asked you that. But congratulations to Mr. Michael and Mrs. Michael there, and little baby Michael. He's not called Michael. I think was it Nick? Did you say he was called Michael? Forget now. Well, congrats to all of you. Adam is saying, I remember paying 5p for the bus, paying £2 for a 10-minute journey. Now get my Yorkshire up. I remember when I first started going out drinking in town with my friends, I still had a school bus pass at the time, and it used to cost me 10p to go into town to go out drinking, and then 10p coming back again. God, how things have changed. Silver is saying public transport just takes the wee on cost. Slight aside though, it's been not mean to sound kind of snobbish, but it's been a little while since I've kind of had any public transport, like other than a train. Well, trains are expensive, bloody hell. Tony's saying cool. I prefer the Gene Stealers anyway. Yeah, you can use them, buddy. No problem at all. And saying congratulations on the new expansion. Gary says Mantix Walking Dead has full expansions, new boards, walkers. Now I know what you mean. Shadespire, they released new bands, but one board. There is new boards come out now, I think, but it does seem to have taken a while for them to come out. Andy's saying, can anyone direct me to any videos on YouTube, such as Kill Team for Dummies or Beginners? There is, Andy, there's a video by Games Workshop. If you go to the Kill Team website, there's a link to the video there, and they've got one of their tutorials. I think they kind of take you through it. So that's probably as good a place as any to start. I thought there'd be more tutorial stuff, and that's why I kind of stayed away from it. But actually, I think there's potentially a gap to do some videos on that, actually. Gary's saying, can't afford Kill Team, 6 kids. See, I've just saw Michael saying 6 kids is a Kill Team of itself. That's definitely right. Adam says to Gary, hot wife then. Gary said, yeah, just doesn't support the hobby, says it's just toys. Does she have a hobby, Gary? Because it would be interesting. A lot of people, in my experience, and I am generalizing here, but a lot of people whose partners are not that supportive of their hobby, their partners tend not to have a hobby either, and that tends to be one of the issues. Certainly was my problem in the past anyway. Let's have a look. Gary, Tony saying Andy's playthroughs from last week might help. Yeah, mine were kind of about specific rules, but if people are interested, I'll definitely do kind of like a an example turn or something like that so people can see how the rules work. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see kind of a one-turn playthrough to understand the rules. Michael says it's his second kid. Make a gimmick of the family. Wife is called Manon. I'm called Michael. Kids are called Nick and Noah. Nice names, Nick and Noah. I like Noah. Andy is saying, okay, thanks, mate. And Tim said, absolutely, you need a hobby. Sat here painting minis, having a beer and listening. Good way to unwind. Wow, I think I actually caught up with a chat there eventually. It only took me an hour and 15 minutes. Lee's saying, good on you, Tim. I haven't done any hobby tonight. That's not like you, Lee. You're normally knee deep in there doing a bit of painting or something, mate. What you working on at the moment anyway, outside of when you are doing some hobby? Are you, which of your armies are you working on at the minute? Gary says, my wife's hobbies are craft related, like vinyl stickers, knitting. She is random. That's quite interesting, Gary, that she's kind of into craft related hobbies, but she doesn't see your hobby as kind of like equal footing, if you like, as a craft based hobby. I would have thought it would be something you could sit and do together, actually. So it's, hey, everyone's different. Everybody looks at things differently. My wife doesn't really have a hobby other than kind of she's quite into fitness. Likes to go for a run, likes to go to the gym and have kind of classes. But what she'll do is like, so for example, on Sunday morning, she had a gym class about 10 o'clock. So I had the little one while she went and did her gym class. And then when she came back, got showered and changed, and then she took the little one while I sat and kind of built some terrain. And that was when I started watching Lord of the Rings. So we kind of just, it's a bit of a trade-off, it's a balance, and it works for us really, but I know everybody's different. Robert says, yeah, painting is a good way to relax, drinking a beer. Yeah, cheers to everybody who's having a little drink this evening. Tony is saying, would definitely appreciate you going through the basics for Kill Team. Yeah, I don't, and Silver's just saying, yes, you do good playthrough type videos to show off games. Thank you very much, buddy. Yeah, I'll quite happily do that. I'll see if I can maybe get somebody to film one with me, but I'll quite happily just do a just the first turn really to explain the basics. The game only lasts 45 minutes, and that goes for about 5 or 6 turns. So yeah, I reckon I'll be able to get like a sort of a playthrough of one turn in about 10 minutes or something like that, I would imagine. Adam is saying, my partner's got guides, rounders, and PS4 gaming. I've got console gaming and painting. I've not really played any mini game yet, but a couple of games of Shadespire. Do you mean you've not really played any mini games with your partner, or do you mean that you've only just played a few mini games, Adam? Christian says, Kill Team videos will be great. I'll get on it, buddy. Lee saying, yeah, copy that. Andy, my wife is supportive now, but she still doesn't fully understand and hasn't always supported. But I think it's because she doesn't have a hobby and used to be jealous, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, I've certainly been in that experience before where it's almost a case of because my ex-wife, let's be honest, that's who I'm talking about. My ex-wife didn't really have a hobby. It was almost a case of, you know, you're disappearing and or you're going away for the weekend with your mates and doing these tournaments kind of things, and I'm stuck at home with the kids. Where I think if it had been a balance of, well, you know, it's your turn to go away and do something and I'll be at home with the kids, it probably would have been a bit more give and take. But I think if you both have a hobby, or you both kind of can like give each other time to do things and still spend time together, you can try, you know, that it's almost, that's the utopia of it, if you like. Tony saying, my missus is really supportive and plays most games with me, including Guild Ball. If you can play together, even better. That's what I've found with my wife as well, is that she likes playing games, but there's only certain kind of games that she likes. And if I can find those games that she likes, well, then when we can sit on an evening and I get to have a games night, I get to spend time with my wife, and we get to spend some time together, kind of doing stuff that we both enjoy. So it's kind of everyone's a winner. I also just remembered I was going to, speaking of games I play, I was going to draw the live draw for the Brothers winner tonight, but I've kind of left it a bit late now, and we've got like 10 minutes left to chat. And I'm struggling to get the comment picker working for Facebook, so I might have to do it the old-fashioned way and just draw them out of a hat. So I'll do that probably in the Facebook live video this week. So if anybody's entered that competition, there'll be a Facebook live video goes up in the next day or so. Michael says, my wife always starts to yell, and I quote here, "Get away with your orcs and elves going all pew pew, you little kid." With your plastic nonsense. Yeah, I think my ex used to call them my was it like mandollies or yeah, little men, I think it was. Your little men. That was what it was. Lee saying working on ballistas at the minute for Northern Invasion. Oh yeah, we've got Northern Invasion coming up quick, isn't it? And then back and forth between Stormcast and Beastclaw. Is but being too involved in the chat tonight to hobby. It's nice that you've been involved in the chat, mate. It's always good to have you have a little bit of sort of banter in here as well. Adam says, I've only played a few yet to play Kill Team yet. Mainly just watched others play to see if it's for me. Hence why I think Skirmish is the route, as I wasted money on AOS 1. Now I understand what you mean, mate. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard. You want to dive in and you want to get involved, but unfortunately in this hobby, as with most hobbies, you do have to kind of shell out some cash before you can even have that first game. Christian is saying his wife doesn't really have a hobby, but she supports my geekiness. It helps that I try to involve the kids in all aspects of the hobby. That's also a really kind of big thing as well. I was kind of sitting at the weekend and sort of my little lad was determined he wanted to get involved in it and try and see what I was doing. So I kind of brought him over and I was like letting him help me kind of pile the mold lines of some of my terrain and stuff like that. And he thought it was great. He was like loving it, like little smile on his face and stuff. If you can kind of get the kids involved, it's half the battle, isn't it? My brother-in-law has just started painting Walking Dead stuff, and he sent me a couple of pictures the other day that his 2 children had sat and painted some zombies for him as well. Yeah, it's it's nice if you can get the kids involved as well. Adam's saying he did forget he got a monthly RPG session. I remember you telling me before, Adam, that you did some RPG stuff. Robert says Test of Honor is a good skirmish game as well. Pretty simple to play. Rules are fun. Sorry, pretty simple rules, fun to play. I did have a demo of Test of Honor actually that Jamie gave me at Asgard Wargames, and I really enjoyed that. It was simple to play actually. Silver is saying my wife enjoys card games, Cards Against Humanity, and smaller short duration board games like Panic Pandemic. Yeah, that's kind of our sweet spot as well. Kind of games that you want to play multiple times because they're kind of like 5, 10, 15 minutes long. So we've been playing quite a lot recently of Exploding Kittens, Love Letters, the Brothers board game that I reviewed. We also played, what was the other one we just played? Timelines as well. We played a bit of that as well. Steve says he's lucky his wife loves her crafts, always busy doing stuff for Lucky Oak. Yeah, a bit of a shout out. I only found this out the other week. Steve's wife is also exceptionally talented and creative, just like Steve, and creative. And she has a company called Lucky Oak. Have a look for it on Facebook, guys. She does some amazing kind of dice bags and T-shirts, and there was something that Steve showed the other day, which was like an embroidered book cover. It was fantastic. So yeah, go and check out Lucky Oak on Facebook. Michael says Little Men is insanely degenerative, and Kyle says his wife refers to it as the guys. Yeah. Michael says mold lines, they're back. They were back, mate. Although to be fair, when you just stick 2 halves of something together and you get that little join down the middle, it was less of the mold line and more the join line, to be fair. Robert says his wife is still interested in playing Here's Negan. I remember you saying that, Robert. That's a good win there. Would you call it a board game or a skirmish or a little of both? I would definitely call it a board game. But I think it's like a miniatures board game. So because it's got miniatures in it, you instantly think it's going to be a war game. But it's set on little boards that you move around. For me, the differentiation between board game and miniatures game is the movement. If you need to measure with a ruler or a tape measure or kind of some kind of measuring device, I see it more as a miniatures game, a war game. If it's move a number of squares or whatever it is, or you're moving around a board, I see it more as a board game and it's less of a barrier. So yeah, He's Negan, definitely a board game. Silver is saying his wife and he also plays Zombicide when we have people around, mostly with me making up rules to make it fun. That is the trick. Just because there's rules in the box doesn't mean you can't make it, hack the rules in half, take half the bits out that doesn't work. Just make it fun for people. If people have fun, it doesn't really matter what you're doing, does it? It doesn't matter what the game is. Tim is saying Timelines, any good? And Silver below there just says Timelines is great, as is Exploding Kittens. I really enjoy timelines. There's a lot of different versions of it. We just got the kind of general knowledge one, I think, as a starting point. And essentially, it's just a deck of cards, and they have an invention. The ones I got anyway have inventions on them. So think of things like the fork, or the first metal fork, and you have to guess where on the timeline when it was invented. So you can kind of, if you've only got one thing on the timeline, you'll see it was either before that or it was after that. And the idea is to get your hand of cards out, you kind of put them down in the right place. And as you get more and more cards out, obviously it becomes a little bit more difficult because you're trying to fit them in between kind of smaller gaps between the years. Quite interesting. It's a really quick game. Really nice little small metal tin that plays in. Definitely good fun. Not too expensive either. Worth giving it a try. Mark's asking which Zombicide he plays. Adam's saying got loads of board games, but need to take out the settee of the living room to put up the table. Yeah, space is a bit of a thing, isn't it? That's why I quite like sort of some of these card games that we just tend to play like on the coffee table or something like that. Tim says he plays Mansions of Madness with the mishes. She's into board games. Always helps as well, buddy. Lee says, can I send my wife away to boot camp with all the wives that play games? Hopefully she'll come back fixed. I hope she doesn't hear that, mate. Is that what we should do? We should have a boot camp for partners. I love that idea, Lee. And Silver says we've played Modern Zombicide mostly. I have Black Plague 2 and the expansions for both. Mark says he loves Black Plague and back the Invaders too. Do you know when that's due for delivery, Mark? Have you got much longer to wait for that one? Feels like it wasn't that long ago that it was backed. Tony laughing at Lee there. And Silver says, yes, backed Invaders 2. Damn Kickstarter. Well then, this just shows how chatty it's been tonight. I've hardly even finished my beer here. Can you still see how full it is? That's not good, is it? I've had another great chat this evening, guys. So, for those that weren't keen on having the Kill Team chat, I hope we've managed to kind of curb that it wasn't all Kill Team tonight. I think there's been a really good mix of games that we've talked about this evening. So yeah, just coming back to some of the things that we've talked about, I'll do a video on the Kill Team, like a playthrough to explain the basics of how to get started and how one turn looks kind of all the way through. So I'll do something like that in the next kind of week or two, I think. Have we got a live stream next Monday? Yes, we have. We've got live stream next Monday as normal. I'm actually away on holiday for a week after, from a week on Friday for a week. I am going to try and take some stuff with me and try and do a live stream. Don't know if it'll work or not. So we may end up just kind of having a week off. What else have we got going on? For anybody that doesn't know, there's some t-shirts that I do online as well. So if you have a look in the description below this video, you'll see that it'll take you for a link through to a t-shirt store where you can buy things like, let me just model this one for you. Fantastic bit of merchandise there. And there's some other ones as well. If anybody would like to help the channel in the future, I have a Patreon as well, which you can see up there. Again, there's a link down in the description below. Let's see what these last few comments we've got here as well. Adam says he doesn't have a coffee table. Mark says next year, along with Batman sort of time. Trying to think about. I was just trying to find out when Batman was due to ship as well. I was just talking to my kids about it at the weekend, and it was reminding me I've got like 3 Kickstarters I'm waiting to deliver. I don't really want to back anymore until they start to kind of come through the door. Silver saying don't get to do the live chat often due to travel for work, but it is always fun. Thanks everyone. Thank you, Silver, as well. Always appreciate you coming in, mate. And Gary says, can you do review or playthrough of the Walking Dead expansions? I certainly can do if that's something that you want me to do. I know that one of the guys in our gaming group, James Chalmers, has just started the Threat Level 1 YouTube channel as well. So head across and check that out. That's all focused around The Walking Dead. So he might have some stuff on there as well soon that you might be interested in. And Christian says, thanks, Andy Night all. I think that is as good a time as any to call it a night. So, again, thanks everybody for coming. Excuse me. Thanks everybody for coming to the chat tonight. It's been really, really fun having you. If you haven't checked out my latest few videos, please go and check them out. And anybody that entered the competition for brothers, I'll be doing the Facebook live draw some point in the next day or so. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.